Hello and welcome to Bedroom Studio Corner. I am XD. Welcome back to the channel. Now today I have a very exciting video because in this video today I'm going to be going over mixing, and in the next video I'm going to be going over mastering. Now today I'm going to be showing you guys how to mix a track from start to finish and how to then master it afterwards. So this is going to be two videos. Be sure not to miss the next video after this so that you find a mastering stage of this process. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. We have a lot of valuable content on this channel that you're not going to want to miss, and I'm going to keep on bringing more content onto this channel, so don't miss out on my future videos. Leave a like before we get started, and let's get into FL Studio and let's get into this mixing. So today I'm bringing out my big guns. I'm bringing out my Waves audio plugins, and I'm going to be showing you how to do a proper mix. I'm going to try and simplify a lot of these processes so that you can grasp them easier, so that even if you're not using Waves but you're using other plugins, you can actually get your mixes sounding right by using whatever plugins you're going to be using, because there is no formula to mixing, but it's all about knowing how to do it and when to apply certain effects and when not to do them. So that's what mixing is about. So let's try and level out this track. This track is a track that I made on my previous live stream that I was playing there, and we were making it together with people that were watching. I also do live streams, as I'm saying. If you're new to that, always check out my live streams. We interact and we talk, and people ask questions, and we just conversate on my live stream. So be sure to check that out. Now, as you can see here, I have this track I've laid out here. It's a complete track. I did complete it and I finished it, so I haven't released it yet. That's why it looks like this. So now we're gonna mix it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select this area over here where I think most of the instruments are playing, or rather let me select over here on this break over here. Let me just play that back so you can hear how it sounds. Now let me bring out my mixer here. So that's my kick, and that's that kind of guitar sound over there from Omnisphere. So I would actually say that this area is where everything is playing. So let's start off with this first pattern over here on top, and I think that is drums. I like to work on my arrangements as drums on top and then going down with all other sounds. Now if I go into the mixer here, I can actually see what sounds are playing. So here's our kick. So usually the kick is the most loudest thing in the mix, so you need to make sure that your kick is kind of on a nice place in the mix to begin with. I like to usually start mixing with the kick just to make sure because I know it's the loudest thing, so I like to place it at a place where I know it's gonna be my ceiling, kind of where everything else is gonna be beneath. So now, as you can see, the kick is round about -7 dB. So that is fine. So everything else can be under the kick. So now let me just listen to this hat over here. Now that sounds okay. And as I said, mixing has no formula. It's all up to, how you hear, how you perceive the sounds and where you want them to be in the mix. So it's all up to you. It's never up to a rule that says the kick or the snare must be at this level or whatever. It's not about that. It's about you listening and hearing where you want the certain element to be, but keeping in mind that your stuff mustn't be overly loud. A lot of people get the problem where they have weak sound systems, so what they do is that they boost all these gains high up like this. You must not do that. As soon as you go over, when you're mixing, you go over the 0 dB line over here, then something is really wrong. Either turn up the volume of your amp or whatever sound system you have, or your monitors, turn it up higher. Even if you turn it up max, And make sure your faders are not very high. Your faders must always stay low. Even if they stay halfway, that is fine. For me, when I get mixes and I get files to master, as soon as I see faders all the way up here, I immediately sense a problem. But as soon as I see this faders down here, then I'm like, okay, we're safe. We've got headroom, because you need this extra headroom up here for when you get to the master. So always check that before you go anywhere, before you start to mix, where your levels are. So already the signal we're getting here is very soft, so I just need to go back and check where it is. That's this one here. That's this hat. You can see I lowered the channel volume here. And also the sample is weak as well, as you can see. It's not a very loud sample. If I can normalize it, then it's louder. Which means I would have to kind of lower it over here and bring it down like this. So that's another thing also to check on, how loud the samples are themselves. So I like soft samples because soft samples allow me to mix them better. Loud samples come with, you know, it means they're more processed and they're clipped and they come with all sorts of distortion on them already. So it's also a thing to also take note of when you're choosing samples you're going to use. Use clean samples, because the more you keep cooking a sample, the more you keep distorting it and you keep killing the sound and the clarity of that sound. So as you can hear, this is kind of a nice, you know, kind of a real, you know, a hat that sounds like it's a real organic hat. That's why it sounds so nice. So I can kind of give this, normalize this to give it a bit more gain, but at the same time keeping it below my kick. Then let's add this other one. Must be this hi-hat over here, hi-hat 12. We can raise that, and as you can see, it's also very low. I can normalize it, make it louder, and I can bring it down over here or bring it down over here. I can reset that and bring it down here. Keep in mind that bringing all of this down here makes sure that we have headroom over here and we can still add more on our master. Now you can see our master is kind of getting a bit loud, like over around -3 dB. That is still fine. That is still fine. So now we go to the other sounds. This is kind of another kick sound that I added to the track here. That's going around here, -10 dB. That is fine. And we have another sound here. That's kind of a tambourine. Let's see what that is. 28. There it is. Just shift it, and you can see it's very soft, so I can normalize it and make it louder. Then I can lower it here. There's a conga over here. I can lower that, and then I can actually just pan it to the right and lower the kick a bit. I'll play it with the kick. Let me leave the kick where it was. So this is actually how simple mixing is. It's just taking your time, concentrating on your sounds and going through them and figuring out where they are placed in your mix and kind of positioning them in your level and still leaving some headroom where your mastering is going to come in. So now let's add all these other elements slowly. I can just slide the shaker over to the left side, lower it a bit. Because it's all about making the choice on which sound you want to be more upfront and more in the back. So that's basically what I'm doing here. So now what I can do is, if I'm happy with these sounds, let me see if I still have other drum sounds here. Okay, here's some. Let's find out where they are. Okay, that is fine. So our drums are very busy here. I think this is a symbol. I'll just let it play. So only soloing all the drum sounds gives me, you know, enough room for me to listen to the drums only before I get to all the other elements like the bass and all other plugs and stuff, so I can work step by step to get to a nice mix. So that's how this helps. So now I have all my sounds kind of in a good level. What I can do is I can start selecting these sounds. I'm pressing shift and control and I'm clicking to select all these sounds, and then I'll just select an extra channel over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to send all these, I'm going to route all these sounds and create a submix that I'm going to call drums. So now I'm routing all the tracks, all the drum tracks into this one channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some processing to all the drums as a whole. Remember, I have mixed them already. So now I'm adding, you know, some processing to the drums as a whole, kind of giving them kind of a uniform texture and just adding a little bit of gain to them a bit. So I'm not mastering per se, like mastering drums. Don't get that twisted. I'm just still in the mix, still kind of, you know, grouping the drums and making them, you know, you can call it kind of a sub mastering, but for me it's not necessarily mastering of drums. So now I'm sure all my drums are coming here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here on the side and I'm going to create a send just like this. I'm just going to call it side, and then I'm going to add let's say a fruity multiband compressor, and I'm going to go into the presets and I'll just add let's say a mastering 2.4 dB. Let me add that, and then what I'm going to add after this is something to give texture. That is just compression that I just want to add, just a little bit of compression, just to, you know, not kill the dynamics of the drums, but just add a little bit of compression there. And then what I'm going to add now is I'm going to look for something that's going to give it kind of a crush, kind of a nice feel, you know, to the drums. Now simply I can just use, let's say, a wave shaper, and I'm just going to move that there so that I can just give a bit of squeeze to the drums. So now let me start raising my volume here. Now if I can exaggerate this, you will hear the difference. Let me just add all of this parallel compression. This is what we call parallel compression. It's too much, but you get what the effect is doing. It's actually kind of crushing the drums and kind of giving the drums more pump, and it's making them hit a lot harder. So now I'm gonna lower this, and then, you know, until I get to a point where the drums don't sound overcooked, but at the same time they don't sound weak. Roundabout there is fine. If I switch it off, they don't sound too whole, they don't sound too wholesome, like as if it's a complete track. If I put it on, that's much better. It's slight, but it's much better. Now as you can see, my sound is clipping already. It's going over 0 dB. So now what I can do is I can go back and select all my drum sounds again. Now I always use this trick. I have all my drums selected, then I can just lower all their levels like that. So now I've lowered everything back down so that I can still get headroom over here. Now they're all lower. Now I can add a bit more parallel compression into the signal of the drums, so the drums can, you know, can get more punchy. There we go. So it's not a mixing is not about making your sounds louder or your drums louder or anything louder, but it's about making everything clear and sit nicely and be pumpy. So as I said, if now the whole mix is softer and I want to hear it louder through here, I would have to go and turn up the level that I'm listening to here on my headphones or my monitors, instead of having to raise the gain up on the mixer in FL Studio. That's where a lot of people get it wrong. So just always look out for that. So now everything is on a good level. Now I can start adding other things into the mix. Like let's take this morphine, for example. This must be this one here. Can lower that. That's in a good place. We can add this direct wave, number 8. Then I can add the bass. That's a nice place for the bass. It's not too overpowering the kick, but we can remedy that through sidechain. So rather, let's do a sidechain on this bass and the kick. So I'm going to click on the kick. I have a tutorial on sidechain. Then I'm just going to rename this channel here, and I'm going to call it mid. Or I'll just name it sidechain. There we go. Then I'll just select the kick, go to my sidechain, and then right click here and say sidechain to this track. Then I come here to my bass and I'm going to route my bass to the sidechain track. Route only. Then I'll switch it on, and then I'm going to add a fruity limiter. Go to the comp, go to the sidechain, select kick. Play it back, lower the threshold. Add the ratio. Lower the threshold more until I start seeing the kick come in here. You can actually hear the sidechain. This is just only to get the kick to come across and come through and not be disturbed by the bass, because they're going to be fighting for all that low end space. So sidechain will just help the kick punch in a bit more, you know, when the bass is also playing. So that's what that just needs to be. It's not to kind of change the sound of the bass. So that's why it's just slight. So now I can just start adding more instruments. Now we have another one here. We have 2 more actually. Just lower that, make sure that it's audible, but at the same time it's out of the way. Now we can move to the easy keys. Now let's move to other sounds. And controlling levels of sounds does not just have to happen in the mixer itself, but you can also use the volumes on the channels themselves. Like this crash, I can just lower the volume here and play with it over here, and I do not necessarily have to do anything on the mixer itself, as long as the level is low. And remember, the kick is our peg for our ceiling, so everything must be under the kick. So basically that's the mix for this track, and it sounds good as a mix. It's not supposed to sound loud as a whole, but it's just supposed to sound clear and clean, and just to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be in the mix. So it's not about this track being loud at the moment. That's where we're gonna get to the mastering. That's in the next video, not this one. So I hope this video helps you in mixing and just showing you how simple it is to actually mix, and how simple you can go with mixing. I wasn't adding any effects to enhance any of the sounds because they are fine as they are. I was kind of enhancing them as I was making it. But now in the next video, my mastering video, that's when I'm going to be doing a lot of effects, and I'm going to be walking you through how you can turn this into a full master now. So I hope this video helps you in terms of mixing, and you can rewind it and watch it again, and keep watching it as many times as you can, so that you catch how I walked you through this track. I'm going to release this track after I finish mastering it, and then you can hear the final product, and you can see what's up. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, leave a like down below if you've learned from this video, and let me check you out in the next mastering video. I'm X, and I'm out. Peace.